Now, before I mention what is the topic we are going to cover, let me mention about Jonathan. Now, what happened is, as you all know, due this pandemic, a lot of face-to-face networking event is being really restricted. And I am someone who loves to travel every weekend to some or other networking event. And if I get a chance, based in London, evenings, I spend my time meeting people. So, but I came across Jonathan not on an event, but actually through social media. I was seeing kind of his activities, what he's doing, and I got really attracted to the term trust mix. So before I could meet Jonathan, I was attracted to his brand, TrustMix, and I kind of started having reading about his post and so and so. And then I reached out to Jonathan and I said, Jonathan, I can see you're doing something very special, something unique, which I have not seen in our property industry. Like I've been there almost for 10 years now, doing my full-time job as a banker, but as a part-time, or I could say my passion is about property. I can sit and chat about property for hours and hours, and still my energy level will be the same because I'm really passionate about when it comes to property. So that's where I just dropped a message to Jonathan and I said, Jonathan, it will be good to connect. And Jonathan insisted, rather than virtual, is it possible that we can meet in person? And he made a journey from Leeds to London to meet. And we went for I think it was a lunch come dinner kind of meet. And that's where I was able to meet Jonathan for in person, understand his passion, his commitment towards his brand, and what he's trying to solve here. So I'm not going to give away any of his mystery, what he's trying to solve here. But he has a very humble beginning when it comes to property, but he has really found a fortune in this humble beginning. And for each one of us, I think it's a very big lesson to learn that there is a lot of angles when it comes to property. So Jonathan is with us this evening from his valuable and busy schedule working on this startup. He is with us, and Jonathan is going to take us through this journey. And Jonathan is by profession an accountant, and he is also a property investor. He has done buy to lets, and he's a developer, and he is the founder of TrustMix. So after this presentation, make sure that you do visit this website, trustmix.io, and enroll on what he's trying to do. Right now is absolutely free. At what point he will start charging, we don't know. So it will be a good idea for you to jump on this and register. Okay. So on that note, Jonathan, I will hand over the virtual platform over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Thanks, Jete. Yeah, wow. Thank you very much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. And hi, everyone that's joined. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing with you this evening my challenges and successes from my career and property journey so far. And yeah, sharing with you some stories as well. The next slide, please. So yeah, I'm going to give you a bit of a background about my career, how I got started, a bit about my property journey. I'll give you an introduction and overview of TrustMix, the TrustMix platform, some sort of key takeaways of the lessons I've learned and the transferable sort of skills I've picked up over the last 10 years, and then we'll do a Q&A session. So yeah, next slide, please. So my background, I'm originally from, and I'm actually currently down for Christmas in Devon, which is in the southwest of England. And I'm from a single parent background. My mum, an only child. And I think from an early age, I've always been very good with numbers. I wouldn't say sort of extremely good, not to level that I would maybe do a maths degree at university, but I found that I was pretty good when it comes to sort of business kind of numbers, and ended up doing an accounting and finance degree at Oxford Brookes University. When I finished that degree, I moved back home, moved back to Devon, and I started doing recruitment consultant. So I was a trainee recruitment consultant. And I figured out very quickly, some people go to uni, do degrees, and then they go off in a different direction. I kind of really wanted to make the most of my degree, and I started to go and look for jobs. And I realized that I didn't have any jobs in my local area. It is more rural in the southwest of England. So I was thinking I was going to go more towards London area and outside of London. So I was saying to my boss at the time, I had doctor's appointments, and then I was going up country and going for interviews and coming back. And there's only so many doctor's appointments you can you can really take. So I ended up telling my boss that that I was looking for a job elsewhere in finance. I wanted to use my degree on a Sunday, and it's a story that really resonates with me. On the Sunday, he gave me a phone call and he let me go. Because he wanted someone that was committed to the job, and I did shoot myself in the foot, didn't I? So on the Monday, I got onto the phone. I spoke with a lot of recruitment consultants based up country in Reading, Oxfordshire, the London area. And by the Wednesday, I'd secured a couple of job interviews for the Thursday. On the Friday, I'd managed to secure some work. I stayed friends and family members over the weekend. And then on the Monday, I had another job interview. And that afternoon on the Monday, I got offered two jobs, two positions, one in an insurance company, one in an entry-level starting finance position. And I remember, and I accepted the entry-level finance position. And I remember driving back to my mum's in Devon, and said, like, Mum, I've got a job. It was kind of the whole, I'm not coming back until I've got a job. And yeah, so I then needed to move up country and find a place to live in 2 days from when I was going to start my job. So I went on to spareroom.com, which is a UK-based website where you can find rooms to rent. And I found a place and I started that Wednesday. So it's a very sort of poignant story for me, because I got let go from a job on a Sunday, and then 8 days later I had secured an entry-level finance position, and that was really the start of my career. So it really just showed me the whole perseverance side of things and that determination. And I just sort of came alive, and I didn't really know that I had it in me, but it showed me that human beings can do great things when you really put your mind to it. So yeah, I started my first job, and I remember it was at this company called Wincanton, which is a big logistics company. I was one other person that wore a shirt and a tie. I was the only one of the only people that wore a tie in there, and because I was just up there working, I was working till 7 or 8 p.m. every night, just non-stop, just trying to learn as much and be a sponge to everything that I can learn. And I ended up getting promoted twice in the space of 9 months, to assistant accountant, and then to a sort of a support management accountant. And that was my sort of first experiences of providing reliable information to people. So my job was to help provide management accounts, so monthly financial information, to the chief IT director. And it had to be just that whole attention to detail and the providing of reliable information. It really sort of set the scene for the core, with like the fundamental framework for how I continued in my career. Next slide, please. So as I finished university, it gave me some exemptions towards being a qualified accountant with ACCA, so chartered accountancy body. And I was fortunate that the companies I was working for were providing me with study support. So I was working towards becoming a chartered accountant. And I moved to another job, which was National Trust. It was a big charity organization based in the UK. And then I met my now ex-girlfriend, who was born and raised in Leeds, and I ended up relocating to Leeds, and I secured a job there as a finance manager, covering the overseas division of a menswear suit company. And again, that's to do with like providing reliable information to the group CFO and the CEO on a monthly basis. And and that's where I became a qualified accountant. And with the exams, I have a couple of friends who were also studying, and they would pass it first time. I did not pass everything first time. I was constantly failing exams and wanting to quit, and speaking to everyone, trying to give me sort of a reason to not want to carry on. But somehow I continued, and I'm very thankful now that I'm on the other side of that I'm now qualified accountant, right? So as I was a finance manager, I was qualified, I was earning more money now. I felt that I didn't want to continue in the direction of working my way up the ladder from a career perspective, and I wanted to work for a smaller company doing a bigger set of responsibilities to get a much broader sort of understanding as the world of business and the accounting and finance function generally. So I had a very good contact of mine, a recruitment consultant, and I told him like I want to work with a smaller company, bigger set of responsibilities. He didn't find it straight away, but 6 months down the line, he contacted me and he put me in touch with this travel tech company. And the two owners had been around for 5-6 years, and they had interviewed me, and I ended up getting the job. So what they needed was for someone to come in and set up the finance department. And I remember I knew about 10% of the job. So I got it on sort of sheer attitude and willingness to come in and like roll up my sleeves and do what I needed to do. So yeah, I remember starting on my first day, and it was literally like Google was my best friend. And you think, well, you need to know all of the things you need to do the job. I'm a great believer, and sure, there's exceptions to this, but I'm a great believer that anyone can do any job. It's really just about being put in that seat, and then you figure it out. And that was definitely for me. It was oh my god, there's so many things I didn't know anything about. How to do a tax return or accounts processing, some like basic things that as a qualified accountant you think I would know, but I was very sort of specialized in one area. So it was great fun. From the travel tech startup, it's called lookingfor.com. It's a comparison website for airport car parking. And the main sort of takeaways I would say at my time, I was there for just under 5 years, is it's about due diligence. So I remember about a year after, my two co-owners, they've been around, they've had the company for about 5-6 years. They were looking to get it into a saleable condition so that they could sell it. They were looking for an exit strategy. So part of my job was to come in and help to make it more like structured from a finance perspective, make it profitable. And a year after I started, we ended up selling to a London-based company. But about 9 to 12 months, we ended up buying it back from them, because it turns out that company that bought us, they were having difficulties. And that's sort of the lesson, that there was a lot of due diligence on our side and a lot of like long hours for me to provide all this information for the sale to go through. But we didn't really do much due diligence the other way. So sort of my lesson was due diligence is quite often, or should always be, a two-way street. It's always like, don't always think that like, oh, someone's checking information about you. It's also you checking information about them. And another sort of due diligence situation was one day my boss, I think it was over Skype, he messaged to say, oh, do you fancy coming with me to Melbourne in Australia next week? Thinking about buying this company, and do you want to come out and do due diligence? To check if the numbers are what they say they are. And so I remember like flying out business class. It was great fun, the first time I've ever done that. And I ended up being in the hotel room, jet lagged, with loads of ring binders with bank statements and invoices. And so that was great fun. But it was a lot of like hard work. It was a successful acquisition, and it ended up adding sort of that part of the world to the overall market. At this point, I'm going to put a pin. Can you go to the next slide, please? So I just want to put a pin in sort of my career, because I want to tell you a bit about the property journey and then how the two will interlink. So I've been interested in property from a young age, and about a year ago, I found this image on the top right, and it was something that I drew when I was about 12 or 13. And it was in Microsoft Paint. And I'll explain what it is. So in the middle was me in a suit. I've got a very big pink face. And in the back is meant to be a 5 to 6 bedroom house. And then to the left is like small houses ×5. On the right is, it's cut off, but it says big house, I think 2 or 3. And then there's a picture of Italy and 2 to 3 villas. So from a young age, I have had an interest of ambition of owning properties around the world. And I suppose being quite, I don't know, humble or being quite modest is, you would think, well, I would not even go to uni, or I would go straight out of uni and go full scale with property, and I haven't. I've sort of taken the career path of working my way up as a finance director. But it just sort of sets the scene of, I've always had a passion for property, and it's really coming around right now in what I'm doing. So about 5 to 6 years ago, I was going to more PIN networking events, so property investment networking events within the UK, in the Leeds area. So meeting with people, networking, and reading books. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is probably the most commonly read property book, I would say, as well as there was a book called The Complete Guide to Property Investment by Rob Dix, and that was really about that really set the scene for me, understanding the different strategies that exist. There's more, but it's the good core strategies and the pros and cons of each in terms of having time, having money, and how they would work. And then about 6 years ago, with my now ex-partner, we bought my residential property, and obviously that was a little bit motivated by wanting a first home. Ended up buying a 3-bed mid-terraced in between Leeds and Wakefield. And the reason why I bought it was because I walked into the living room and there was lovely bay windows and a fireplace. So I was just like, yeah, let's buy that property. But went through quite a process of looking at various different properties, and you find which ones you like. But it's a different hat on that you have when you're buying a property for your house, for your home, as opposed to it as an investment. About 2 years later, I bought my first buy-to-let, and I was saving up because of my salary. I was able to afford saving quite a bit each month. I was saving about £1,000 a month, and I got to a point of about 18 to 20,000. And then it was really just wanting to get my feet wet into just a complete bog standard buy-to-let, vanilla buy-to-let. And I've quite an analytical approach. I even printed out a map of West Yorkshire, and I would color in red certain areas that I wanted to rule out versus areas that I wanted to look more closely with, so I could help with my search. And I created some spreadsheets to try and work out the numbers side of things. And I viewed a bunch of properties, I think about 8 or 9 properties. I ended up with buying a property that was literally 2 minutes walk down from the road from my residential. And I wouldn't say it makes any significant amount of money, but it was really just to give me an idea of the inflows and outflows of owning property and some of the challenges that come up and the problems that you need to solve. And I've still got that, and it's quite passive. So that was around 2018, so about 3 years ago now, and that coincided with a couple of months later, we sold the company. So we sold the company that I was now the finance director of. And I was, about 6 months prior to us selling the company, I was offered share options in the company, and I was on the board. I was offered about a couple of percent, and the contract was that I was going to stay on the company for about 3 years, or if the company sold. And I was sort of betting on my 2 owners really wanting to press to sell the company, so that then I would get all of my payment for us all working hard and everything. And at the time, I was working 60, 70, 80 hours. It was quite crazy. Really tested the limits in terms of the health and what my stress levels could take. So I learned a lot from health is always the number one most important thing, and you have to know your limits in terms of what work you can do and also what's more important. We sold the company 2018. I ended up exiting the end of 2019 after having moved my whole finance department, including all of us were made redundant. I moved it to the parent company, and I think from that perspective, it's such a core value of mine, and I strongly believe in, is about good communication, transparency, openness. My whole team knew at every single point what was going on, and they were all incentivized to help with a smooth transition. But I don't believe in hiding things from people. It's always important to have all the cards on the table so that we can say, right, how do we work this? And that was great. And we needed to make some hires as well over the period. And I remember in the interviews, I told them all the information rather than, oh, by the way, your job's going to go in like 15 months time. It's just, I think it's better that way, transparency. It's important. It's an important sort of core value of mine. So yeah, I ended up finished with the company end of December 2019. I had a bunch of money in the bank from the sale. I don't have any kids just yet. And so yeah, next slide, please. So I wanted to go backpacking during 2020. I was like, right, I want to go travel the world throughout the whole of 2020. And then COVID happened. So I went to Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. And then March last year, 10 days before lockdown, I ended up meeting my now Danish girlfriend. So I actually currently split my time between Leeds and Copenhagen in Denmark. So I would say that that's my sort of COVID success story. We carried on chatting and one thing led to another. And yeah, I'm very, very happy now. So the goal was to get the travel bug out of my system, then come back and set up a business in something. And I knew that I had this love for property and I had a bit of money in the bank. So sort of made sense that I was going to spend more time and focus and energy on property. So things just got brought forward a little bit. So yeah, I found myself doing a lot of researching, creating some spreadsheets, obviously. I ended up going to lots of viewings up in the Northeast. So I was looking at places like Middlesbrough, Durham, Newcastle, Darlington, going, yeah, as many viewings, sitting down with as many estate agents as possible, collecting information, bringing them back, putting them on my spreadsheet, and just really understanding how things were going to look. And also going to lots of, as many as I could, online networking events, just to start that ball rolling. And what I found is that there was two gaps or two areas where I had uncertainty around, which was the refurb cost. And because of my inexperience around the refurbs, I was in my networking and research, I was trying to get better at understanding how that looks. But it was an uncertain sort of area in terms of how much something's going to cost. And then also the exit. So what does your exit look like? Is that, and with COVID, there was lots of uncertainty around refinancing, and in addition to increasing material prices and the increasing lack of availability of tradespeople. I just think, okay, I think there's too much uncertainty here. Let's take a step back and stick to what you know. I've been in a startup company for 5 years. So, okay, let's see what experience I've got and how that sort of plays into it. And this is really how TrustMix was born. Next slide, please. So around August last year, I was having a lot of calls with sourcers, so property sourcers, people that help investors find properties in areas that they don't know as much about. So I was having calls with sourcers. And I just remember coming off of a lot of Zoom calls with sourcers and thinking, well, we could be like really good friends. We could go on a night out, or we could, we could be really good friends. But are you actually any good at doing the job of being a sourcer? And that sort of applied to anyone that I would speak to. If I spoke to a developer or a solicitor or a broker, how do I get confident? And that was the whole thing of the whole reliable information. How do I take the information you've just told me on a Zoom call, and how do I make sense of that so I can ultimately know, like, and trust you? In addition to, I don't know if you guys have heard of a company called Fiverr. So it's an online platform. It's a freelance platform where you can enlist people to help you with some services. And I'm part-time FD, part-time finance director. I work about 9-10 days a month. And back then I was looking to sort of grow my client base. I wanted to get a website, and I needed someone to do some copywriting work for me. I'm really good with numbers, not so good with the words. And I found someone super easy. And I just thought, how was it that easy that I was able to decide that that person, amongst the list of, say, 100 other copywriters, was the person that I had confidence that they were going to deliver? And obviously it's not necessarily, but it was greater confidence than the others. And it just got me thinking. That was a bit of the light bulb of, does this exist in property? And so last September till around about November, I just tried to break the idea. It's sort of like, when you have an idea and then you speak to someone and then they say, oh yeah, do you mean like that company? And I thought that was going to exist, that was going to happen. And so I started to speak to as many people in property as possible about the idea, and people gave me companies and other platforms that existed. And I got to November and I couldn't find other platforms that captured the vision quite like I had about TrustMix, or what became TrustMix. So I was at the point where, okay, I can sleep at night and run full pace at this, and yeah, and give it the best shot. So I began assembling my team, which I've got 3 people that are from the previous startup. So ironically, I trust them because I've literally worked on the other side. They were on the web development team, and then there was the finance department. So we went on lots of Christmas staff parties and spent a lot of time together. So I ironically trust them. And so I have a full stack developer, got a creative person, and a front end developer. And I've got a few other people since. And then, yeah, so I got to December 2020 and yeah, registered the company with Companies House. Next slide, please. So what is TrustMix? So TrustMix is it's currently a free to use property platform that makes it easier for you to search for and better assess other people and businesses to network with, to do business with, or to hire. So one of the ways I say it to people in the UK is that it's a mix between Checkatrade, Trustpilot, and Fiverr. So it's like a directory, and at the moment it's very much like a directory where you can sign up and you can create your property profile. So you could say, right, I'm an investor and I cover the areas of Manchester, also London. These are the areas I'm interested in investing in. And you can also say specifically what strategies you're interested in. So that means that when someone else comes on, they could search for you as an investor. They can at the top say, right, I'm looking for an investor in that area, and then they'll find you. And equally, you can register as a sourcer or a developer or a broker. And if you're an investor and you're looking for these services, you can also find. So it's almost like a finding service, and we'll be creating new things. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. All right, our main aim is to save time, reduce risk, and generate business. So how we're going to do that, next slide, please. So is a rating system. So I geeked out in Excel, and I created a points-based algorithm. So it's where if you've got, say, a LinkedIn profile, your TrustMix rating will increase because it's kind of social proof. If you've got 5 people that give you a recommendation, your TrustMix rating increases by a little bit more. Even things like if you've got a business email address as opposed to, say, a Gmail or a Yahoo, it adds a layer of verification. So your TrustMix rating will increase. Even updating your profile photo. All of these things are things that I think we do generally, but I'm trying to break it down and to attribute it into a score that helps you to differentiate between one person or another. Another sort of core area of the rating system is the verification of information. So say if I was on there as a qualified accountant, well, I could put my qualified accountant credentials in there, and what TrustMix does is we go off to that body, that independent body, and we can verify, fact check that you're actually on that register, and we can come back in our back end and give you a tick, and that validates to others and also to us that you are actually accredited with that. And that principle applies across all of the different types of services that exist. So yeah, it's really based on recommendations, verified information, and other factors that contribute to enhancing trust. Next slide, please. So yeah, who is TrustMix for? So I've kind of already said this. It's pretty much for everyone in property, and the list is in the last couple of months. It's grown like even more than the list that's on here. I have put other service providers, but even people like digital marketing services, virtual assistants. We've added recently construction consultants, project managers, home staging, and maybe you have some ideas of others. But the whole point is that it's anyone who offers a service to an investor or a landlord or a developer that you can be on TrustMix. Yeah, next slide, please. So my challenges so far, and I guess they're maybe pretty obvious, but my challenges are critical mass. So TrustMix will be successful if we can deliver on the critical mass problem, which is getting enough people on the platform for it to be as useful as it needs to be. So at the moment, we've got just over 300 people that have signed up, and the goal is to grow it to a starting point of 5,000 and then go from there. And the more every single new person that signs up and creates a profile, it becomes more valuable and useful to everyone else. It's that whole network effect. So that has been a challenge, and that's why I'm here talking to you today, to tell you a little bit more about my journey and also about TrustMix and the benefits it might be for you. Marketing. So my background's in finance, sadly not in marketing. So marketing's been more of a struggle to me. I'm a bit more fish out of water. So I've got an idea, I've got like the theoretical knowledge there, and I'm now like putting in place, building up my brand in a better way. So there's lots more that we can do on that. I've got a copywriter on board and a social media person. So we're doing more and more. We started with newsletters, and we're going to do more email marketing. But it's important, it's super important for me that we do that in the right way, that it's not just spamming emails out like again and again. It has to be done in the correct way. It's super important. My limited resources, so sort of ties into me being a sort of sole founder as well, I would say, is it's a problem that everyone has as you're starting a business. You want to replicate, you want to clone yourself and have more versions so that you can get more done. So there's a constant battle of, okay, there's this list of things to do. How do I prioritize? What's the next most important thing to do? And I don't have all the answers. I just try and say, right, what's going to move the needle the most. Like right now, it's the amount of hours that I've got in my team. I need more hours. In the last 2 weeks, I've hired 2 overseas developers, and we're bringing them into the team, and things are going well, like super well, but I need more. So I am in the process of going out and getting some funding, and that's going to help me to grow the team even more. And then, yeah, being a sole founder, it can be a bit of a lonely world sometimes, and on a daily basis. My partner's great. She really sort of helps and listens. I would probably not talk about TrustMix as much as I do. She's a really good, she's really helpful. So yeah, next slide, please. So my key takeaways. I think when I was writing this, I think it's important, and I know sort of we want to talk about property. These are all things that really just intertwine into who we are, and that helps us to be as effective as possible. Self-belief and determination for me is it's up there, because what I was saying about the story earlier about getting a job in 8 days, if I didn't have that determination to go up and do it, I wouldn't have. Who knows what would have happened? I might not have put myself out of my comfort zone, which is so uncomfortable. But it's having that self-belief and that confidence. I think that is the key thing that I constantly come back to when I'm certainly building out TrustMix, is that I've got this vision, I've got this direction that I want to take it. Sure, it costs me money each month to be building this out, but I can see the end result, and obviously you get feedback from lots of people, but it's having that self-belief and confidence in you that you're able to do that. And that really applies in any field, especially property. So understand what you need to know. So this is it's the whole, like, you don't know what you don't know. So it's okay, how do you find this out? And this is sort of through problem solving, and we all work in different ways. Maybe you work in different way than I do. So I like to get like a big A3 sheet and try and write down things that I know, and also like objectives. And I try and piece and just break it down into smaller pieces, and then it will identify gaps. So for me with TrustMix, there's a big gap on the marketing front. So say, right, how do I help to move that thing along? How do I improve on that section? So it's really just like understand what you need to know. And this applies in property. Like, what if there's a particular area of property or a particular location? What do you need to know? Who can you reach out, or what do you introduce into your conversations that you have with people to then slowly try and piece that together. And how do you collect that information so that it gives you more knowledge, more understanding, and enables you to have greater confidence in the direction you're taking. Due diligence. So yeah, from finance, it's really, I think, especially in property, we're used to hearing the word due diligence and just attaching it to numbers. And I think what point I want to make here is that it's also to do with people, and we do it constantly every single day. Like even you listening to me, like I'm a person and you're assessing who I am. That due diligence process is still happening, and that's what we're building out with TrustMix. It's just to try and break that down and to try and help us to make better decisions based off of these things that we're collating and seeing as using as a tool. And then yeah, reliable information for decision making. So my time as a finance director and an accountant, it can be summed up in my job was to provide reliable information for decision making. And that's what I'm looking to do with TrustMix, is to provide reliable information for decision making. And it's all about trying to increase your confidence levels based on that information so that you can decide which way to go and what to do, and to ultimately reduce your risk. You can't ever, I believe, you can't ever eliminate your risk, but you can certainly reduce it down to a more acceptable level so that you've got your risk return. So yeah, and yeah, just guys, thank you for listening, and yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think when you were saying about self-belief and determination and asking questions, one thing came to my mind was Jack Welch, who was the one of the most successful CEO of General Electricals. He was a CEO for almost 20 years and transformed General Electricals. I think the share price went up around 4,000% when he was a CEO. And he always used to say that if someone is asking a question, that means that person has some understanding of the answer, but he wants reassurance from other people that his answer is right or wrong. Or sometimes it is a right answer, but he wants that confidence to go ahead and do it. And I think you really touched that when you mentioned about self-belief and determination and asking questions and kind of really believing in yourself. So, Jonathan, thank you for the presentation which we did.